That's a good start. Have myself on mute. Good evening and Kate Milafalcha, the latest episode of Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. And as you can see, we did have Luke, but he's popped off again. I'm not sure. Maybe he's got to go to the loo. But I'm sure he'll be back with us very soon. But yeah, welcome. And this evening we're going to be talking about the Anderlecht game and looking ahead also to another important game away at Southampton on Sunday. But I do have this man with me. Rich, welcome. How are you keeping, bud?
Tommy, all good. Thanks, mate. Good to be on.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. What time have you got there?
It's just gone 11:05 here in South Africa. So yeah, a bit of a late one, but always happy to be on for the Hammers.
Yeah, and you seem nice and sober, which is a bonus for a Friday night.
For a change.
Yeah, for a change. But you probably still talk more sense than me when you're drunk anyway, so it's all good. But listen, thanks for joining me. It's good to have you. Your first time on the show with me.
Yeah, first time indeed. Yeah, buzzing.
Yeah. So I suppose we'll start with Anderlecht last night. What did you think of the performance from the team overall?
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive performance. We seem to be on a good run of form at the moment, which is great. I was buzzing for the likes of Jared Bowen and Said Benrahma. I think both of them really needed a goal for their confidence. Bowen's trying to get into the England squad for the World Cup. Benrahma's trying to get it back into the starting 11. Many fans find him frustrating, including myself. But when he is on it, he can really be a catalyst for us. So good, solid performances from them. Delighted for Flynn Downs. I thought he was magnificent in midfield again. So yeah, things are looking up for West Ham, and I think it's a good springboard now for the Southampton game on the weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to bring in our man, Luke, a regular now on the show with me. Appreciate you being on again. Probably sick of me now, but thanks for joining me. But yeah, do you want to pick up on that, Luke? Feelings overall on the game last night?
Yeah, apologies for having to crash out because my headphones decided to pack it in, and I got to turn back on again. Yeah, and I'm never tired of you, Tommy or Rich. Nice to see you, mate. Missed your face.
Leaky boy, how you fella?
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't watch the game last night. I've seen the highlights, and it was the perfect. These conference games seem to be the perfect games for players that are out of form or that sort of want to get a bigger impact in the team to get their chance. Benrahma's the perfect chance of Benrahma to strut his stuff and do what he can and to get his confidence up. I don't know about anyone else, but he seems to be a decent free kick taker, more decent than anyone sort of thought he was. I think he hit the bar against Forest, didn't he, from a free kick, and then the one he took last night. That is a lot harder than people think it is. Normally, players just go for the top corner when they're that far up from goal, or that close to goal. But he's dipped it so much it's actually gone to the bottom corner, which is even better. So yeah, Downs again. Once again, he's meant to be man of the match or along those lines. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Emerson apparently had a much better game last night, which is always good to hear. I think he's got a good career ahead of him at West Ham. So yeah, they're good. And the thing about it is now we've got a bit of a cushion because we've won now, and I think we've qualified. And I know we kind of want to finish top if that's a given, but yeah, they're good games for us to build confidence and get momentum going. So it was a good run out, but it sounds like the most entertaining thing was in the crowd and not on the pitch in the second half. So yeah. Less or more said about that.
I was looking at that free kick, and I was, because he wasn't that far out, 20, 21 yards, maybe 22 max. And I'm thinking, how's he found the bottom corner? How's he got it like up and over the wall and down, by the foot of the post in that smaller space? There was a lot of dip on that shot, but I was just watching the wall because I thought, how does a free kick from there get over a wall? And then go in at the foot of the post. And to be honest, it was a really shoddy wall. I mean, the wall just broke apart, basically, as he was taking it.
He made the wall break apart.
Like shoulder height in between two players, and that was why he was able to get it down so quickly. But yeah, he struck it really well. And, that'll have done him the world of good, actually, because obviously the criticism of him the previous week out in Anderlecht was that he had missed some gilt-edged opportunities to score and could easily have had a brace and probably should have. So to see him get himself on the score sheet and to do it early in the game as well, I think was good for him, because then he was up and running nice and early. His tail was up, and thankfully he continued that for the rest of the half. I think like most of the team, he dropped off a little bit second half. But first half, that was great for him. And really, I suppose the game was won really in the first half, Rich.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to Benrahma, I think he's a live wire. His finished product is what lets him down, and I think that's what gets myself and a lot of West Ham fans frustrated. But the good thing is he's creating the chances, which is important. And yeah, by the time the second goal went in, the game was pretty much dead and buried. It's disappointing to concede a late goal. It's never a penalty. So yeah, I was gutted with that one. I think Areola was also disappointed. He would have loved his clean sheet.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
We were comfortable. We kept the ball well out of possession. I thought we were nice and compact. Bowen getting shots away. It was difficult not having an out-and-out striker. But again, Moises showing his flexibility with the squad, playing a large squad over 2 competitions, playing a false 9, and it worked, and we got the job done. So happy days.
Yeah, and Luke, what did you think of the lineup when you saw it at 7:00? It probably wasn't quite as strong as we maybe thought it could be.
I thought it was stronger, actually, than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think Paqueta would start, and I actually thought it was one of the most defensive setups we could have had, considering we have Anderlecht at home. I think that's what most people thought it was going to be as well. But the funny thing about modern football is it's not a static formation. You can change these formations as the game goes along, and it can be the sort of thing where it's 5 at the back when you're defending, and it's 3 at the back when you're going forward. So there's no problem with that at all. I was surprised he started Paqueta. I kind of think, I always feel like these sort of games, unless you can play a completely second team, it's good not to risk the main players, if you get what I mean. Gab Bowen got his goal and stuff, but there's times where you sort of go, well, do we need to play these players, and how long is it going to be until maybe Moyes does what he did last season, which is play the kids, basically. I don't mean kids like patronising, but play the youth team for the last game or something. So it was a good, strong team compared to what I thought it was. It was probably the strongest and the weakest that he could have played at the same time. The interesting thing for me is the injuries. We'll probably get onto that at some point, but I am very surprised at how quick Ogbonna's been able to get back and play in full 90 minutes, and I was kind of waiting for him to come off anyway. So with some sort of injury, I didn't trust that he'd be able to last the full group stage without something going. So hopefully there's nothing too bad with that. But it was, I don't know if you agree with me, it's almost mirror image to what he played in the first game against Anderlecht, but he obviously started Paqueta rather than starting on the bench. But for what it was, it doesn't surprise me, but it just surprises me how defensive it looked. I thought he might have gone a bit more attacking, but then, like, as I said, it can be interchangeable. It's just that it just says that on paper. That's what it says.
Yeah, I think the surprise for me really was, there was no Dawson. A lot of players were rested. I mean, there was no Dawson in there. I thought maybe Dawson would start. He has in Europe so far, but he was rested. No Carer. Okay, fine. Probably expected that. No Rice or Soucek in the middle. No Fornells. No Antonio. Now I know some of that was kind of enforced a bit. But usually, even in Europe, you expect some of those to kind of be thrown in just to add a bit of strength to the squad. Paqueta starting was good, and Bowen starting. I wasn't sure if Bowen was starting or not. I think for me, it kind of depended on what the situation was with Cornet, maybe. But Paqueta, I like that he started. I think that for him to get another 45 minutes is really good for him, because I think he's starting to get into his rhythm with his teammates, with the system that we play, and I think it's no harm for him to have gotten 45 minutes. It's great to see now that he's starting to influence games. Okay, he hasn't probably hit the heights that he can hit yet, but you can see that it's coming. You can see that those performances are getting better. You can see his confidence is growing, and he's doing his little bits of skill and his flicks and stuff, and he's moving the ball about. He's getting involved. So I think that was good for him, Luke.
It's mad for a player that I consider to have already settled in and already having a big impact on the team and influence on the games, that we're still considering him as just warming up. That he's still got a lot more to give. But for me,
He
he's
needs
had a.
confidence.
I think he's got it already. It's interesting to see how people see it differently, but I genuinely think that
I think confidence is the wrong word. Sorry to interrupt you. I just think
yeah, no.
that he hasn't scored his first goal yet,
Mm.
and Moyes is probably thinking it's probably best to chuck him in a Conference League game. Maybe he gets 1 or 2, he's on the score sheet, then boom, a bit of a confidence boost to the Premier League. It's not that he hasn't been influencing the games. I think he's done well. I still think he can improve, definitely. But
Yeah,
I
I'm not
just
saying he
think
can't
from a confidence perspective, that's probably why we saw Paqueta starting this game. And I think Moyes, once it got to 45, said, "Listen, let's get you off. You're playing on the weekend." But yeah, I do hear what you're saying. Sorry to
Does he?
interrupt
No,
you
no,
there.
no. But that's the good point you're making. But if that's the thing that I'm not quite, I don't think I'm on the same thought level as everyone else, because I don't think he's looking to score. I don't think he's the kind of player that looks to score. He seems to me like the player who actually he thrives on flair football and trying to get assists. I don't see him as someone
Yeah,
who's
good
because
point.
the problem is that the worst thing that we've done as fans is label him as a new Payet because he can do a bit of skill here and there, right? That's what we've gone. We are, and we're sort of like, for me personally, we're weighing down this, right? You must be the new Payet. We haven't had Payet for a few years now, but you need to be the new guy, the one we can all trust to whip in a free kick or score from ever or do something to the defenders and all that. I don't think he needs to score. I think he's showing an abundance of the confidence. I'll tell you the reason why he's different to Payet is the fact that he likes to tackle. For all the time that Payet was at West Ham, I never ever saw him try and put a tackle in or try and outmuscle the defender to get the ball back. He could do it with skill anyway, wouldn't need to do it with strength. But I think it was the game against Fulham. And I think it was, I'm not sure if it was the goal we scored or the free or the penalty we got out of it that led to the corner and stuff like that. But there was a point where he had about 3 or 4 Fulham players around him, and he completely outmuscled them, and then managed to get a ball out to Creswell. And I'd loved Pyatt when he was at West Ham because he was the most amazing, incredible world class player I've seen in the West Ham shirt. But he never did that. He never forced his way through the players. He never wanted to make a tackle, and he never thought, "Do you know what? You're not having this ball with me. This might take me 30 seconds to get out of this grouping, but I'm going to get the ball out and I'm going to get the ball to my player." And I just thought for a Brazilian guy who's labelled as a flair player and who likes to get a bit rough and tumble, he's doing the complete opposite to what Payet used to do, but has got the skill as well. And I'm not saying you're wrong. It might need a goal, and he might be that player completely. And one goal means that he goes on to score 15 this season. I might be totally wrong, but for me, I don't have to chat agrees. He seems like a completely that doesn't need to go for the confidence. He's already got the confidence because he's doing the things like he did at Anderlecht away, where he's jumping up and catching the ball in his heel and he's doing the Rabonas here and there. The geezer just breathes confidence regardless of what he's doing on the pitch. But I think you just, to me, I see someone who just wants to assist all the time, isn't bothered about scoring goals. I don't know if you two feel the same way.
I think
Yeah,
it depends on. I'll go for it, Tommy. Sorry, mate.
so yeah, no, I think you're right, Luke. I think he is confident in his own ability. I mean, in Anderlecht, we could see he was having a lot of fun. He was enjoying himself. I
Yeah.
think last night as well, maybe to a lesser degree, but he seems to be enjoying things, and you can see he's getting into his rhythm. He's getting into his flow. My point was only that I think it's good for him to get minutes now, wherever he can at the moment, because I think
Yeah.
he is improving. I think the big thing for me, Luke, is that he's having to adapt to the pace of the Premier League. And what in the Premier League compared to Ligue 1, it's very different. I mean, everything Premier League has to be snappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to be done quickly, and he's been caught in possession in the Premier
That's
League
fair
games
enough.
where he's just dallied on the ball a little too long.
Mhm.
Something he probably could get away with in Ligue 1, particularly playing for one of the better teams there in the league. But I think he's having to adjust to the Premier League now, and that everything's got to be sharper, quicker, done much faster. And I think that's the big adjustment that he's finding he's having to make. So I think getting those minutes in, even though I know that wasn't a Premier League game last night, we still played in that first half at a Premier League tempo. Our tempo was really good. We were moving the ball quickly. And so, he's starting to just make that adjustment now. And I think that's the important thing for him. Once he makes that adjustment, fully and he's up to Premier League kind of speed and tempo, I think that's when we'll really kind of start to see the best of Paqueta.
Yeah, definitely. Just the point I wanted to make. It will be interesting to see, what type of position David Moyes utilizes Paqueta in, because, we know he is a versatile footballer. He can play as a centre midfielder, and it seems as though he likes to drop in a bit deeper. I think a lot of West Ham fans, including myself, when we signed him, pictured him as a number 10 who's potentially going to get lots of assists and goals. But, as Luke mentioned, he does like a tackle. He does like to get stuck in. He does like to dictate from midfield. So it will just be very interesting to see where David Moyes utilizes him. But yeah, he's definitely comfortable on the ball and he does like to drop deep. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over the course of the season.
Yeah, and also again last night, I mean, obviously there were other very good performances. I don't actually think there was anyone that had a bad game. I can't think of any player in a position where I say, yeah, he was really poor. I think Soufal had one of possibly his best performance of the season so far. For us, I thought Soufal had a really decent night. But I have to say, I am having a little love affair with Flynn Downs. I'm really rooting for that
We
guy.
all are, mate.
I think we're all rooting for Flynn.
What a geezer.
There's a lot of goodwill towards Flynn Downs at the moment because of his story. Like he's proper West Ham. And his family going way back are all West Ham. So I think there's a huge amount of goodwill from the fans. So I was really, really happy to see another really solid performance from Flynn Downs last night. Maybe not quite man of the match performance, but I think a lot of that had to do with the second half, because I thought in the first half he was magnificent. Second half, I think we just kind of started going into cruise control a bit because we were in so much control. And the second half wasn't really much to write home about. It was a little bit boring, frankly, the second half, which is fine. I'm quite happy with boring. I get way too much drama with West Ham too often. Boring, comfortable
Exactly.
second half will do me fine. But yeah, I mean, Luke, Flynn again, very good last night, I thought. What did you think of him?
Like I said, I didn't actually watch the game. I just saw the highlights, and he did pick up a few things that he did. And the reviews are coming in. Moyes has changed a little bit with the way he's picked certain players to play rather than his complete favourites. So I don't know if Downs is completely out of the running to start a Premier League game soon. Maybe even getting a sub appearance in the 60th minute rather than the 99th or whatever it is. He's got everyone's saying he's this hybrid of Noble and Rice, which is probably quite true, to be fair. And he's got everything you want. Everything about him is exactly what the fans want. He's basically just, Noble's gone and Flynn Downs has come in. That's pretty much that's exactly what the fans needed almost. So it's someone that they're going to come on the pitch and is going to live and breathe West Ham. But to a point, and I think Flynn might even be thinking this himself, that as much as he can play well in the conference games, is that all he wants to do? Is it going to be that he's going to get, because there's going to be a drop off of where we qualify and finish the group stages, and obviously got the World Cup in between that as well. But you've got the knockout stages, and there's going to be some games before the knockout stages comes, and you've got to think to yourself, well, as much as Flynn has been really playing well in the conference games, surely he's going to want to be knocking on the door for some Premier League chances. And as Soucek's played better, not brilliant, but better the last few games he's played, and it's fair enough. But maybe he thinks he needs to, and Moyes has put his arm around him and gone, "Come on, boy, digging me a grave here." But there's going to come a point where technically he's shown up, and at that point, Downs has got to be, unleashed almost, and that will actually be his true test. And I'm not putting Downs down at all. I'm not saying that he's playing at his level, but he has come from a Championship club. He has come from the Football League, and he's not played a Premier League game yet. And it's just like you're saying now, Tommy, that Paqueta has been caught out a few times in the Premier League. Well, I don't think he's been caught out a few times in the conference games he's played. He's been allowed to be free and expressive. And these games are allowing players like Ben Rama to be free and expressive. And yes, Ben Rama missed a few chances in the first game with Anderlecht, but he scored last night and apparently played quite well. And that to me is like going, well, it's good. Downs is doing what he has to do in the Conference League. Fantastic, fair play, brilliant. Man of the match performances, great, fantastic. But the jury is still out for the Premier League games, and the problem is what I kind of worry about him is that as much as he's playing well in the conference games, if he does start in the Premier League, no matter who it's against, and he doesn't have the performance the fans now presume he will, if he's going to get pelters, and if everyone's going to be going, well, he is at his level, he's only a Conference League player, we'll have to loan him out next year or sell him back onto a Championship club or something like that. And that's the only worry I've got with him, is the fact that you can play as well as you like against these teams. Bucharest, the first team we played at home, but we man of match performance completely overwhelming. They've lost 4 or 5 the last 2 games. They've been slaughtered, and they've been, Silkeborg, who we beat, have beaten them 4-5-0. There's no guarantee that the best is you're going to get, if you show yourself in the Conference League, you're good enough for the Premier League. There's no guarantee of that. So I'm hoping that if he does get his chance, there's not going to be all that pressure. Go right now you're out. This is from Moyes. Right now you're out. You're taking my favourite player out, the boy Soucek. Now the fans want you in, so good luck. Here you go. Boom, kick him onto the field. Go on, now's your chance. And he doesn't get shown up. So hopefully, if he does get his chance, these games have been worth it. Really. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, I'll tell you where I'm at on Flynn. I mean, I agree with you, Luke, in the sense that he is still untested at Premier League level. There's no denying that. And at some point, he will have to be tested at that level, particularly if he keeps playing the way he has been in Europe. But here's where I think he's done himself a lot of favours with these 3 really excellent performances that we've seen from him in Europe. I think Moyes was really unsure about him when he came in, when he's seen him on the training ground early doors. Moyes even said publicly, look, he's still got work to do to make that step up, to be good enough to play in the Premier League. And even Flynn Downs himself is on record as saying, yeah, look, the step up is bigger than I even thought it was going to be. But he's clearly getting there. And I think these 3 performances in Europe, what they've done for him, is I think they've given it's kind of proven to Moyes that he can trust him up to a point. As I say, still not proven at Premier League level, but I think he's done enough now whereby Moyes has seen enough of him that during a game, say in the Premier League, I don't think he'll start Premier League games yet by any means. I think it'll still be Soucek on Sunday, no question. But I think he's done enough whereby if Moyes wants to protect the lead, wants to get an extra midfielder in there, I don't think now he'll hesitate in throwing Downs on. I think he's done enough. Yeah. He trusts him enough now that he feels, right, I can put him in here and he can do a job for me in these last 10 minutes and protect this lead. Or, if Soucek has to come off, with an injury, or he looks like he might get himself sent off or something and Moyes just wants to get him out of there, he may well have done enough now for Moyes to say, you know what, go on, Flynn. Go in and let's see what you've got, son. So I think he's I feel like he probably has gotten himself to that point where he's earned some trust. And Moyes thinks, actually, yeah, I have got a player here. I have got a proper footballer here, a proper midfielder who can really do a job for this team. And it'll be interesting to see, if Soucek can't play or has to come up for some reason in the game or Moyes wants to protect the lead, is it Flynn Downs that he'll chuck in? Because I think he has earned it, really, that kind of trust in Moyes with these performances. So I think he's done himself a huge favour with those performances, Downs. And for his own confidence as well. I think Flynn Downs now knows, yeah, I belong in this company. I can play with these players and hold my own. So it'll be great for his confidence as well if and when he does get that chance in the Premier League. What do you think on Flynn Downs going forward, Rich, and where he's at right now?
Yeah, I think he deserves a shot in the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. For me, technically, he's better than Soucek. When it comes to passing, he's better than Soucek. And, as much as we know Soucek as a presence, and he is one of Moyes' favourites, it's pretty well documented. Flynn Downs has to get a chance. Simple as that. We can only judge him if we give him a chance in the Premier League. And every performance that he's put in Europe, albeit not quite the level of Premier League, has been quality. And he brings mobility to our midfield, which I think when you've got Soucek alongside Rice, I feel like Rice is almost doing double the work at times. So bringing in Flynn Downs from a mobility perspective would be massive. And yeah, I think he's got a really bright future at West Ham. As you mentioned earlier, it's a fairy tale story. You know, supported the club from when he was young, now playing for West Ham. Who knows? He could potentially be a future West Ham captain in years to come. So yeah, I wish him all the best, and I absolutely love him. So hopefully he can put some Premier League appearances together now.
Yeah, and I guess the other talking point you really want to get onto, you touched on it already, Luke. What is it with West Ham and centre backs? We just can't keep them fit. It's ridiculous. We saw again last night, Oggy going off. Now he walked off under his own steam, wasn't limping or struggling at all. It seemed precautionary to me. Like he felt some kind of a tweak and had decided, look, let's just get him off, particularly given the injury that he had, which kept him out almost the entirety of last season. I think it was last October he picked up the injury against Liverpool and put him out for the rest of the season with that ACL. So I think they maybe just weren't taking any chances with Ogbonna. He seemed pretty okay coming off. So there's still a possibility, I think, that he could be available to be back on the bench again on Sunday. Also then replaced by Craig Dawson. And then he has a clash with Flynn Downs. Two of them run into each other. And he picked up a dead leg. He tried to play on for a while, but he was really struggling with it. It was obviously very sore, and he was limping about at the back there, and he had to come off as well. We have to wait and see what the story is there. If that dead leg is going to be okay for Sunday or not. Then of course Thilo Kehrer wasn't even in the squad. Again, supposedly it was just precautionary, and Moyes expects him to be available Sunday. Zuma's got the sniffles. So he's not feeling the best. But presumably he'll be okay for Sunday as well. But I mean, it's just, you can make a case for, all four of our kind of centre backs just not being right on Sunday. And and of course, Aguerd has been out since pre-season. He's still out. We won't see him at least until after the World Cup, possibly the new year, depending on how his rehabilitation goes. So we're absolutely cursed with centre backs, really, aren't we, Luke?
Yeah, we are. It's just typical West Ham in a way. See, this is the part where I'd go, right, if we're that stricken, get some youth in. Let them have their chance. And if people remember about a month ago, I rather, how can I put it, rather stupidly, but might come off as one of the most amazing suggestions to ever come from a West Ham fan. Try Soucek as a centre back for reasons that I made very clear at the time, and I'm not going to go through them again in case I face the same ridicule. But I don't really care. You trolls can have your day of fun. I don't really care. It is a typical West Ham thing that we do tend to get injuries always on the players that are playing really well. It is never the players that everyone wouldn't mind being dropped or need to get, or they've been playing terrible for a few games, so they get in, not going to get injured. It all makes sense. No, it doesn't. The football gods seem to hate us. There's something that West Ham have done in the past. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's winning the World Cup in 1966 that means we've got a big curse for the years and years and years to come. But there's something going on with West Ham, and we seem to just get a momentum, and it all goes again. Zuma getting the sniffles is the most ironic injury that he could get, because he seems to be hobbling on one leg as it is. So I've been waiting for him to go down for the last 6 months anyway with a dodgy leg and drop off halfway through a game. So him getting the sniffles. I don't know if is that a name for his cat he's got? I don't know. He's got a cat back called Sniffles. I don't know. But it's you got him. You got Dawson, who just every now and then. You remember when we first signed Dawson? He'd go he'd have blood sugar levels drop, or he had some diabetes attack or something like that. Something's going on. He'd drop after about 3 minutes of the game. You give him a bit of sugar or whatever it was, and he'd be up again running. So I'm not. He's a warrior, Dawson. So he'll be fine Sunday. If he's on crutches, he'll be fine. The only thing that does concern me a little bit is whether Soufal plays right back, because he's just not been at it for last half a year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Kehra's played a lot better. I personally prefer Johnson at right back, but he's really just working his way back from an injury as well. So you don't want to chuck him in and risk him getting an injury. But I wouldn't kind of take last night as gospel, because I think like a few people have already said already on social media and stuff that you probably think the same. It's the conference game, and it was a bit of a bye game. So in the Premier League, if those two went down for that injury, you probably think, no, you're staying on. You got no choice. We need you to play. Both mentality wise would probably go, no, I need to stay on here. Zuma, take a bit of Lemsip and get on with it, son. But last night was one of those sort of games where you're thinking, do you know what? We've got 2 early goals and 2 goals in the first half. We don't need to risk them. Let's bring them off while the going's good. Didn't end up being that detrimental to us in the end anyway, so it was just worked out. But it's one of those things where for 3 days we could be going all, biting our nails and going, what's the defence going to be like? And come Sunday, an hour before kick-off, David Moyes has done David Moyes and put out a team that no one has to worry about. So I'm not worried about it, to be honest with you. I probably should be, but injuries wise, we are cursed. We seem to be a little bit like England at the minute. We've got thousands of right backs, but we haven't got any centre backs. Right backs are having to play at centre back. Johnson's having to play there. Carey's having to play there. If we can just get centre backs who know how to play centre back, that'd be great. To stay fit, that'd be fine. But the Gare to come back, and probably Creswell are pretty injured. We have to go play left back. So that's just the way it goes for us this season. We've just got to roll on and deal with it,
Yeah, and I suppose as well, Rich. Looking forward on the centre back issue. I mean, Dawson, I think certainly won't be here beyond the season. Oggy won't be here beyond this season. So we're probably going to be back to where we were really last summer, the summer just gone, at the end of this season, where we're going to be looking to bring a couple of centre backs in again. Because we've got now Aguerd obviously isn't an older centre back. I think he's 26 or something, and Kerr isn't either. Zuma's not especially old, but we're still kind of picking up these little niggly things with them as well. But it just seems to go on and on, really, at centre back position, Rich.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit unfortunate, the injuries to Oggy and Dawson. I think Dawson will be okay. I worry about Oggy just because of his age. 34, he's getting on. We're definitely going to be going through some transition in the centre back position. But I think the big hope sits with Aguerd. We've spent 30 mil on him, and I think if he can get back to fitness pretty soon, get into the team, I think he could be someone that really stabilizes our back four moving forward, and he could be someone we could potentially plan our defense around. Thilo Kerr is also an interesting one because of the fact that he can play at centre back and right back. I'm not too sure what his best position is at this point in time. He can put in crosses from the right, but then again, Ben Johnson at right back has been really good for us. So yeah, we do have a bit of a conundrum, but it's not as serious as I thought because we do have players that can play in different positions along the back four. So it's not such a train smash. We've still got Emerson, we've got Cresswell, we've got Kurt Zuma, Johnson's coming back now. Soufal had a better game during the week. So I don't think it's as doom and gloom, but yeah, it's the end of an era, I think, for Oggy. This could be his last season. Dawson potentially as well. Although I think we should get as much out of Dawson for the next couple of seasons that we can because he's shown that he's still got it. He's still solid.
Yeah, obviously, look, we'd all love Dawson to be here beyond this season. He's been absolutely fantastic for us. Obviously, was named as well in the Europa League team of the season, along with Declan Rice this week. So he's been brilliant, Dawson, absolutely brilliant. But I don't think it's realistic that we're going to have him here next season. He wants to be much closer to his family. He wants to be driving distance, easy driving distance from home at whatever club he plays for. So I think he will be gone. Which, to be honest, I'm fine with. If I'm honest, I mean none of these centre backs are getting any younger. Oggy as well, been a great servant, but you just worry about Oggy's health now. His fitness is just, you just feel like he's just going to be getting injured regularly now. And we've got to get a couple of younger centre backs in next season, next summer. Yeah. We've got to go younger, and I'm sure Moyes will do that. Moyes loves a centre back anyway, so I don't think Moyes will take much persuading to sign a couple of centre backs. He'd be all for it. But looking forward, obviously now to the Southampton game on Sunday, Luke. Obviously, look, a couple of Premier League wins under our belts. Not great performances, maybe, but much needed points. And the hope is that we can keep that going against Southampton, particularly as we have Liverpool and United coming up soon as well. Obviously, Bournemouth at home in between those two. So, and we're still in the kind of 13th, so we've got to really keep moving up that table if we can, Luke, and we've got to keep the points coming. I mean, how do you feel about Sunday as regards, like, for example, would you be okay with a point? Would a point for you be a reasonable return away at Southampton Sunday, or do you think we've really got to be going and beating them?
I think you can go and you've got to intend to try to beat them. But the weird thing is, Southampton tend to be a really strange team. They tend to be like, they're either really on it or they're not that on it at all. And I think they're a good footballing team. They're not a very defensive team. They don't seem to be really that great in defence. I think if anything, it's their midfield and their attack that causes problems than anything. So this team needs to start going out wanting to win games anyway. I know David Moyes tends to respect the top six a bit too much at times, but he's got to look at Southampton away. Even if you just view it as a 1-0, I know that's a defence, but the performance really is sort of secondary, if you know what I mean, because of the way we've started the season, because we're playing catch up. We need to now get as many points as we can just to get us at that point where we can go, right, we're at a position now, say top 10, top 8, where we can play a bit more expensive football and all that. But we need to view teams like Southampton as teams that we can beat, and we need to beat, because they'll be looking at us like that. They'll be seeing, if we might see ourselves as being trying to be a regular top 6 team, but where we are in the table doesn't say that, and they're going to look at us and say, well, do you know what? If you're down here with us, we're going to drag you down with us. So try and jump over you. So we've got to have wits about us. We've got to have some intent about us. We've got to try and put out a team that knows they're going to go for it. We tend to have quite good games against Southampton anyway. I think we sort of a very sort of a similar team in that respect. We're a little bit naive at the back at times. But when we go forward, we can be really scary and really dominating. When we go forward, there's not much stopping us on our day. So we take the confidence from Thursday night, and we move it on a Sunday. And if he starts the team and he plays the team that we know that can go out and get a result, I don't. Southampton, they're a very dodgy team. Like I said, I don't trust completely how they're going to come out and how they're going to play, but it needs to be more about us and what we can do to them rather than what they can do to us. So, put out a team that's certainly not going to lose, and then if we deserve to win it, we will win it, and hopefully no VAR decisions get in our way, and we can have the same referee and same VAR team that VAR'd us against Fulham, so we can actually come out with a result and maybe score 2 or 3 handballs to just get the 3 points concrete and signed and sealed, So bring it on, really.
Yeah, how are you feeling on this one, Rich? Southampton obviously not great at the moment, but what, Southampton are a bit streaky, aren't they? Like they can look, really poor for a while, and then they can just put in like a really good performance just out of nowhere and win a game you don't expect them to win. So, I think it's a game we got to be careful. We're going to have to play really well Sunday, Rich, I'd imagine, to take the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, Southampton are such a random footballing team when it comes to Premier League. They'll be rubbish for 5 games in a row, and then they'll go beat Chelsea 3-1 or something. They're just that type of team. But, they've lost 4 games in a row. They're 17th. We've got to be going there and taking the game to them. I think we've been a bit too soft against some of the smaller teams. We've eased off. We need to be more cutthroat in these type of fixtures. We've got the quality. I am confident we'll get a result. But, every single game in the Premier League is difficult. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Any team can beat any team on any day. And if we show up there and aren't at it, they could easily nick one and make it really difficult for us. But yeah, we have to come out strong. As I said, they'll be low on confidence. They really, really need a win. The manager's under a lot of pressure. The fans could easily get on their back if we batter them. So yeah, the incentive is there for us to get a result. And I do hear what Luke is saying. It's difficult because West Ham fans would want to see the expansive football coming out. Yes, fair enough. But he makes a good point. You know, we had a really poor start. We are playing catch up. I would take any win. It doesn't matter how we get it on the weekend. Let's just get the win and keep moving up the table.
Yeah, I think, look, ultimately, always the most important thing is get the points by hook or by crook. Performance is secondary. It's always obviously nice to see your team like play really great and win a game and win it convincingly. And we haven't really hit the heights yet this season. We haven't seen West Ham put in a really top-notch performance where we just look like we are really at it. Like all the players are playing great, and we just put someone to the sword. Not necessarily on the scoreboard. I'm not saying we go out and beat someone 5-0, but go out and get like a 3-0 and really just play great football and look really good. We haven't done that yet this season. I'd really like to see that sooner rather than later. Because we have been kind of, even with the victories, we have been kind of plodding along a little bit, it feels like. Obviously, the Conference League is different. It's not the same level, but we were the better team against Wolves, albeit I think they were terrible. They were the worst team I've seen so far this season, frankly, in that performance. Fulham, I thought we played better than we did against Wolves in the Fulham game. So that was an improvement. So I'm hoping to see more of that on Sunday, that we're going to go out and just put in a really, really good performance where we all feel really good, not just about the result, but the way we played and how great we were. Because it's in there. It's in the team. It's there. It is going to show up at some point. At some point, we're going to come out and put in a really top-class performance against somebody. Now, look, would I prefer to have a kind of workman-like 1-0 win away at Southampton and then really turn up at Anfield or against Liverpool? Yeah, sure. I can't remember, is the Liverpool game even at home or away? Is it away?
It's away. I think we're
Yeah,
away.
it's away, isn't it? Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah.
It's on Anfield, right. And then we got Bournemouth at home, I think. So, yeah, I'd like to save maybe a top-class performance for Anfield because that's probably where we need it more. But I'm just kind of waiting for that game, Luke, where we just really turn up and put in a big performance, hopefully coming soon. But I suppose it's the approach Moyes is going to take to this game. Away from home, it does tend to be that bit more cagey. I suppose the team kind of picks itself more or less. Usually now we're all talking about, right, who's going to start on left midfield. I don't know if Cornet is available for this game, and Moyes doesn't really seem to trust Benrahma so much in the Premier League. Certainly doesn't seem to want to start him. So
We all know where this is going, didn't we?
We all know where this is going. He's very likely just going to throw Fornells out on the left wing, which isn't ideal. He's not a winger. He's not even a left-sided player, really. Spanish under-21s, he was right wing or sometimes.
But that's the thing. Realistically, sorry to interrupt. But that is, when you think about it, we all have Fornells, right? For what he's as a workman and the way his attitude is, and he's fantastic. Full credit to him. But when you think about it, if he doesn't play on the left wing in this team, where does he play? Because Paqueta's got the attacking midfield role. That's pretty much his now. You've got Soucek / Downs next to Rice. Then you've got people crying out for Benrahma to be on the left because of how good he plays. And then obviously when he's fit, Cornet. The right's obviously Bones.
I think that's the question I'm asking essentially, Luke, is we do have Benrahma. And we will have Cornet back as well again soon. Now, I think if Cornet had not picked up that injury, I think we probably still would be seeing Cornet start on the left instead of Fornells largely. Assuming his performances, merited keeping him in there. But I think that's ultimately the question, because I don't think we should be playing Fornells going forward on the left midfield, except maybe in games, maybe where it's warranted, where we really need that extra kind of work rate and defensive cover. But in a lot of games, we don't. We're more than good enough to go toe-to-toe with the teams we play most weeks in the Premier League.
That's on the basis.
So, should Fornells really be getting the game? Should we have Benrahma in there? Should Benrahma be starting on Sunday and not Fornells?
For me, there's got to be a logical argument that Emerson can play left back, because why has it got to be Cresswell all the time? Why is Cresswell playing why is he playing apparently so well that he can't be dropped? I mean, he's not playing as bad as Soucek, don't get me wrong. He's not doing anything that everyone thinks, oh my God,
Well,
Creswell.
first of all, I mean, Luke, he is a left back.
Yeah, but
That is his position.
so is Emerson.
It's not like
No.
Fornals where he's kind of out of position. It's not really where he should be playing ideally.
No.
Like Fornals can play 10,
But
but
what I'm saying
ideally, I
is,
think the number 8. I think Fornals now the way he plays the number 8 really more than anything. But
No, I
Cresswell at
agree.
least is a left back, and he has been playing well this season so far. So I wouldn't say it's exactly analogous.
But we all know that Fornals plays the role, that left-sided role, because he covers the work rate for Creswell, inadvertently making Creswell play well because he's got Fornals helping him out. And what I'm saying is that if Emerson did come in for Creswell, you wouldn't need that work rate from Fornals. You could then expand it and go, right, we could even put Benrahma there because we don't need that work rate there because Fornals is out. So basically what it is that we're only playing Fornals there because Creswell ain't got the legs, and we need the work rate to compensate for it. Now, if you put Emerson there, do you expand and provide some attacking intent from the left-hand side of the defence, so you don't need that work rate from the left-hand side? That's all I'm saying. I'm thinking, so are we going right? We've got to play Fornals there because Creswell's got the legs, but you could completely rationalise that by going right, play Emerson there instead. I know Creswell's playing well. Don't be wrong, but if the only reason why we're playing Fornals there is because we've got to compensate for Creswell's lack of mobility, then is it not worth just going right? Well, one game, let's just see if it works with Emerson on the left back. That won't happen. That's a complete like ideal world scenario. But it does seem a bit stupid to me that the only reason why Fornals gets played on the left is because of the work rate. But actually, you don't need to do it anymore because you've got someone playing the perfect role, and that's Emerson. And actually, have what we all want there to be at the club, which is competition for places. Because Creswell's playing great, but is he playing well enough to keep that role? Are we saying that playing okay and playing fine is justification to playing left back, or do you actually want someone to play really well in the left back slot? Start providing some assists like Creswell used to do, some crosses in the box, some overlapping runs which Emerson can do and Creswell can't. So that's all I'm saying. I totally agree with what you're saying, but the only reason why we're playing seems to be that we're playing Fornals is because of work rate. We don't really need that work rate for Emerson there, surely.
No, and to be honest, like it's kind of annoying to me because having 4 attackers on the pitch isn't exactly excessive, is it? I mean, those 3 attacking midfielders and Scamacca. To me, you really need to have those 4 attacking players on there, and I think you really you subtract from that attacking threat when you keep playing Fornals out there. Now, again, I think when Cornet comes back, I think he'll force his way back into that position, and this will probably become a moot point.
Yeah,
But at the moment, yeah, I just every time I see Fornals there, and look, I'm a big fan of Fornals. I think he's a really good player. I love his attitude. He obviously loves West Ham. He's very passionate about it, and you see the videos of him that West Ham put out and stuff, and they're always brilliant to watch. And you can't help but love Pablo, So it's not that I don't rate him or anything like that. It's just that I don't want him playing left midfield because it just takes away from our attack. So I'd rather see Emerson there, frankly, on Sunday. I'd be quite happy if I see Emerson left midfield, on Sunday, or even Benrahma, because at least then we've got 4 really attacking players that carry a threat in and around the box. Where are you on this, Rich? I mean, if you're picking the team Sunday, what's your thinking on that kind of left-hand side?
It's a difficult one because I love Pablo Fornals. I think technically he's very good. His passing range is good. His vision is good. And playing him out wide on the left just doesn't do him justice. But then again, you can't be playing him as a number 10 because Paqueta's there. So it's difficult to find a spot for him. That's the problem. He's come off the bench in Europe and done a good job. I think just based off Benrahma's performance during the week, I would give him a start on the left. Again, he could be very frustrating and get into good areas, and his final product may let him down. But just based on his performance and the form that he's carrying from that game, I'd throw him in. He's confident. Then have Bone on the other side, Scamacca up top. But I could see Fornals starting this one. I think Moyes is going to start him. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, he brings more than just the work rate. Some of his touches are only he could really do. He's got that quality in him, and some of his vision and his passes have been really good. So Yeah, it's a difficult one, but I'd go with Benrahma on the left if I had to choose.
Yeah, but I assume you're kind of along the same lines as us as regards what Moyes is likely to do, and it's probably going to be Fornals.
Yeah, I think so. Just based on the work rate, and I think Fornals understands what Moyes really wants going forward and defensively. So yeah, I can definitely see him starting. My only the only thing that really annoys me is just Soucek's going to start in midfield again, and I just want to see Downs and Rice together. That's the only thing that's frustrating me.
Yeah, I just wonder earlier in the season, just while we're talking about Pablo, I just wonder if Moyes kind of missed a trick a little bit earlier in the season. When Soucek was playing really poorly, and probably none of us really were quite comfortable yet with just chucking Downs in there. Maybe a lot of fans were, but I think he could have put Pablo in there alongside Rice. I mean, that could have worked. Pablo's got the work rate and he's got the passing ability that Soucek doesn't have. The frustrating thing for me is, I think defensively, I think Soucek's actually done really well. It's just when he's in possession, it's just horrible. I mean, the amount of times he just gives the ball away. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't notice before this season. I never felt like Soucek was a terrible passer of a ball. It never really kind of seemed to dawn on me.
He's
So I don't know
awful.
what happened this season. I always felt like Soucek was great for us. I don't remember thinking in his previous couple of seasons, geez, this guy can't pass a ball. I
He
don't
never had to
remember
pass
thinking
it, did
that.
he? He
But this
never had to
season,
pass
for
it.
some reason, it's like he's just forgotten how to pass.
He just never hits
Yeah.
it with conviction. It's almost like he just kind of says, "There you go."
Please,
The direction of his passing is awful. I mean, some of the passes that I've seen this season from him have been absolutely terrible. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a centre midfielder in the Premier League. You're a national team player that captains your national team, and you cannot pass the ball straight. It's mind-boggling. There's players in League Two that have better passing than Soucek at the moment. Genuinely.
it's criminal that it's amazing to see that the role that he's now playing compared to when he first comes to the club is now showing him up for what he is lacking. And I think look, he was a battering ram when he first came to West Ham, and he was one job and one job only: box to box, defend for your life, and then go and get yourself in the box and try and get a goal. And to a level, that's really the only thing he can do. I don't know what he's been like for. Who was he playing for before us? Was it Slavia?
Slavia.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how he was playing for them, what role he was. I know I've seen a few highlights of his games on YouTube when we first signed him, and he was scoring goals for them. Looked brilliant. I don't know what he's been playing like for Czech Republic for all these years. You only get to see pockets and little things like highlights on YouTube and stuff like that. I don't know what type of player he is, but it doesn't seem really cut out for any team maybe above the top 10, top 8. He seems to be literally perfect for the sort of team that's fighting relegation, which is why he was perfect for us that year. And then obviously when the year we qualified for Europe, he had Jesse Lingard, who was doing all the work right, and he could just stay back and do whatever and be the battering ram he always has been. So it's a shame, but I do think his career at West Ham, unless he can look at the end of the day, he put an amazing clearance / assist in for Antonio against Fulham, scored a third goal. So credit for that. I thought he's getting, but he seems to sometimes at least need a bit of a kick up the arse. Maybe that's what's giving him a bit of a kick up the arse. He still looks a bit like a, Bambi on ice, a bit, deer in headlights at times, and really that's unforgivable for a Premier League player. That's unforgivable, especially where the club's aiming to be. So. Fornals is perfect, absolutely perfect for the player that he is now, for the player that Moyes has transformed him into. Is the perfect player right now to replace Soucek as well as Downs. But Fornals has been there from day dot. So it makes all the sense in the world. But as always, this is the classic football conundrum where a lot of the fans can see a solution to a problem, and the manager is completely blind or just arrogant or just stubborn. And I guarantee you, one game, if Fornals, if the football gods looked down on Sunday and they said, right, we're going to make Moyes pick Fornals and Rice in that centre, we would have the most hard-working, dogged, mobile centre midfield the Premier League has that weekend because of the sheer work rate of both of those players. But it won't happen because it's too logical. It makes too much sense, and that's the problem with football managers at times. And it's annoying, but 20 years of watching football teaches you that.
Yeah, managers do have their favourites, don't they, Rich? I mean, it's it seems to be there will always be, I think, probably with every manager, certain players that become almost undroppable. I mean, they have to be probably on very poor form for a really extended period of time before the manager actually finally bites the bullet and says, you know what, I just have to drop him. And Soucek is obviously one of those players for Moyes, where it just takes an awful lot to drop him.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think he's been given far too many games, and he's been afforded the luxury of being able to start even when he hasn't been playing well, that other players haven't been afforded the same luxury. In fairness, you look at someone like Bowen, who probably shouldn't have started the last couple of games in the league when he was terribly out of form. Now he's the man in form, scoring goals. I think on in the midfield side, it's a bit different though. Soucek's been poor for as long as I can remember. And you've got people in midfield that are, chomping at the bit to get into the starting 11, like Flynn Downs, and players like Pablo Fornals, who technically are far superior than Soucek is. And in the Premier League, you get found out if you have a centre midfielder that can't pass a ball, who's technically not good enough. You will get found out. You'll get bullied in the midfield. You'll get overrun. Teams will dominate the midfield. And we've seen that happen to us. So it's just a pity he has his favourites because, as Luke mentioned, it's so logical. But Moyes is just one of the most stubborn managers in world football. So, yeah, we'll see Soucek on the weekend in the middle of midfield again.
Yeah, no doubt. But I do also think, I suspect anyway, that I'm going to make a prediction now for next summer's transfer window. I think our biggest spend will be on a central midfielder. I think Moyes knows deep down that he's got to get someone who's really, really top class in there. That really top class. He tried to get one already this summer just gone in Onana, who I think he felt was going to be a perfect partner for Rice. And I think he's going to do it next summer. I think next summer his biggest spend will be on a central midfielder. And I think that really will be the end of the Soucek conversation.
That annoys me. Why bring in someone when you've got someone there already? I mean, Fornals is perfect at picking, amazing passes out and linking play up. Yeah, do you think he'll buy in January then? Because I know that obviously Dawson will probably want to go, and maybe one other maybe, I don't know, but I don't see January being that.
No, I meant next summer.
Sorry. Okay, fair enough. Sorry. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, no, I was talking about next summer. I think in January,
maybe you didn't hear.
Yeah, but in January, Moyes will sign only if he absolutely has to sign someone. So, for example, if Dawson did actually leave in January, then I think he would replace Dawson. But he's not going to spend any big money on a replacement. He might even go in for a loan till the end of the season.
I know it's
very little activity in January. Very little activity. Moyes just does not like buying players in January.
No, but no, well. When he first come to the club, he does, and he bought.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Let me rephrase. Right. I don't mean he won't ever sign any January players. I mean, he likes to do his big spends in the summer, right? So it's not that he won't bring someone in. He's just not going to splash the cash in January. You know what I mean? Like, so if Dawson goes, he'll bring someone in, but it'll either be a very cheap replacement centre back for Dawson, because we'll have a Guerd back presumably by then, so he won't feel like he needs to bring in a starting centre back. He'll feel like he just needs another arse on the bench, basically, at centre back. He'll maybe bring someone in on loan, or he'll just pick someone up nice and cheap, a kind of older journeyman centre back for cover. He'll do stuff like that. But I don't see him, making a big signing. He's not gonna spend, I don't think anyway, 30 or 40 million on someone in January. I don't see that happening. But yeah, we'll see how it pans out anyway. But I mean, I agree with you, Luke. I mean, he could and should often play Pablo beside Declan Rice, but I think we can't expect that because I mean, there's been ample opportunity for him to have done that, and he's never done it.
I
So
know.
I don't
Why
see
can't you
why
just listen?
he's
Why can't you just listen to us?
doing
Can
it
you?
now.
Why can't you just listen to us?
Yeah, well, look, look, fans are always frustrated with managers and these things. We often look at some of their decisions and are kind of baffled at what's going on here, But what can you do? It's I'd love to know what the dynamic is behind the scenes. I guess I suppose we have to accept as well that when you're a manager, you're very, very close to all these players. I mean, on a personal level,
Mm.
we're maybe a bit more detached. I know now we'll still have our favorite players, and there'll be certain players I'd be slower to drop. Even if their form dipped a bit, I'd still kind of want to put them in there and kind of give them a chance to be better next week.
Fair enough.
But that's probably amplified if you're a manager because you work with these players every day and you get to know them very personally and intimately, and I suppose maybe it just becomes harder. Maybe David Moyes just has a great kind of personal relationship with Thomas Soucek, and he just really loves the guy on a personal level, and so he's kind of rooting for him more than maybe we are, and maybe we can kind of.
Soucek's definitely sleeping with Moises' daughter.
I was gonna say when he said intimate, I was
So
thinking of a few things.
maybe maybe we can. We're a bit further away from it, so maybe we can look at it a little more detached than a manager can.
Yeah, it's
So
one of those.
yeah, so okay, I'm going to ask you what your level of confidence is actually for Sunday. Now I'm going to ask you to nail your colours to the mast, and I'll start with Rich. How confident are you going into Sunday's game, and what do you think the score will be?
I am quietly confident. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I just look at our front four. Skamaka, if he starts, is looking really good. Antonio could potentially come in off the bench and do a job for us. Bowen's looking good. Paqueta's looking good. So I am confident. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. Actually, 2-1. We'll concede some scrappy goal, but I do believe we'll win the game and get an away win, which will be a great result for us.
Very welcome. Yeah. How you feeling, Luke?
When we were talking about earlier, I was a bit, quietly conservative because of how up and down Southampton can be, especially at home. But the more and more we talked, my brain just goes to how good West Ham can be on the day, and I'm gonna be very confident of a win against them. Hassan Hootel, I actually quite like him as a manager. Actually, I think he's quite a good. He's very passionate and he's quite level-headed, very emotional at times though as well. Remember him crying after beating Liverpool after like the 16th attempt in his career or something along them lines. It was actually quite nice to see that he felt that way about it. I presume that's what it was about anyway. That's what the media said. But yeah, like I said, sometimes Southampton can be a really good footballing team. Other times they can get swept away 4-5-0 by any team in the league, pretty much. So I am very confident. I don't know if you want a prediction out of me yet for a scoreline, but if I was going to, which I'm going to now anyway, I'm going to say 4-2 for West Ham. My highest scoring prediction this season from West Ham. I can see us conceding a couple of goals, just because I like Fabianski. I like what he's done for the club, and he wasn't too bad against Fulham, apart from the goal that should never have got in. How he didn't. It's his near post. How is that go? Anyway, yeah, he's obviously going to play in goal. I don't 100% trust him with fast players, which I believe that Southampton normally have anyway. So Skamaka to do a Haaland and score again in a game, and maybe even getting a couple, but definitely 4-2. I don't know who the others are going to be. Probably Soucek scored 2 goals now after sort of not slagging him off, but just sort of criticising him to a level. And maybe even Paqueta getting his first goal because me saying he's all about assists and he'll go and score a goal. So yeah, 4-2 West Ham for me.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'd take 4-2. I mean, that sounds like a really good game, and
I don't trust them in defence. I don't think their goalkeeper always seems a bit iffy. To me, I think it's at McCarthy. Is he still playing for him?
No, it's Bazunu now.
That's the one. Yeah, he looked really good in the first
Yeah.
day. Really good in the first day, and then since then, I've just been a bit thinking about the results and all that.
Yeah, I'm feeling quite positive about Sunday as well. I think Southampton are just really, really poor at the moment. Our form is picking up. All right, we're not pulling up any trees, but we're certainly improving. And man for man, there's no doubting we're a better team than them. Our tails are up. We've got 4 wins in a row, and I don't care where your wins are coming from. I know people say, "Well, Europa League, the opposition aren't great." Doesn't matter. As a team, as a group of players, if you're winning games, your tails are up and your confidence is up. It doesn't matter who you're playing or who you're beating. If you're winning games, it just gives you confidence and it gives you a feel-good factor. And we're carrying that into the Southampton game. They're under huge pressure, and I think, if it's important we kind of get on top of them early, because I think if we go 1-0 up and we're on top and things are going badly for them, I think the crowd are really going to get massively edgy. You're going to start hearing the moans and groans from the crowd. That kind of filters through to the players. They get a bit nervy. They start misplacing passes and stuff like that. So I'm actually quite confident that we can go there and get the result. But as I say, I'd love us to put in a real performance, real top class performance, our kind of best performance of the season, where you can really get a sense of, right, we're back. This is the West Ham I've kind of been waiting to see all season. Because like I said, I still have this little thing in the back of my head saying, okay, we've won the last 2 games in the Premier League, but we weren't brilliant in either game. Really, I thought, like I said earlier, I thought Wolves were absolutely horrible. I thought they were terrible on that day. I think any other team, I think the Premier League probably would have beat them that day. Against Fulham, certainly we played better, no doubt in that. But it still wasn't like a great performance. It wasn't like a really dominating performance. So I'd love to see that Sunday, because there is still that doubt in the back of my head. Like, have we really turned the corner? I think for me to really start to feel like we have, I need to see not just a win, but I need to really see a performance. Like, we could win Sunday 1-0 in a kind of a cagey affair where we're kind of hanging on at the end and we just kind of see it out. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'd be still very happy we've gotten 3 points, but I'd still be like, we're still not really playing great, and I just
Convincing.
have that worry that we really turned a corner. So that's my only kind of worry there. So
It could be potentially 5th win in a row, isn't it? Altogether,
all
if we win
competition.
Sunday, yeah, that's mad. From the start of the season, the start we had, to now we're thinking that we could be, 5. That's a few people I know have been telling me that we don't want the Conference League games. They're going to be a hindrance to our season. Whereas, if anything, I think they've been a confidence booster to our season. We've been getting confidence from them, and the next game we've been going in and we've been not necessarily playing a lot more confidently, but certainly been picking up the pace and we're getting the wins. So, if anything, bring on the Conference League a bit more, because it seems to be, a morale booster and the good luck charm for us. So, we just played, we just won. So, no reason why we can't do it Sunday again.
Yeah, and I think, Rich, that's the one thing we're really seeing this season is that the squad is there now. You look at that team that we put out against Anderlecht. We were able to rest an awful lot of players that will start on Sunday, and we were still comfortable. We still had a lot of really good players on the pitch, and that squad depth is really important to us this season. I mean, we're going to have a lot of fresh legs for the Southampton game. Ironically, we could have a problem once the group stage kind of ends. Now we've got this big kind of strong squad, a lot of whom now are kind of going to be getting less game time, because the group stage is finished in Europa League. We don't have another meaningful game. We're going to finish top of the group. Let's be honest. We only need a point at home to Silkeborg, which we're going to get. and then it's March, basically, essentially, till we play in the last 16. So I actually think to keep kind of everybody happy, keep everybody ticking over, I think we actually need to really take the domestic cup seriously. Now, I know FA Cup doesn't come around till the new year, but, we've got the Carabao Cup game coming up against Blackburn. I think we've really got to take that seriously and try to do everything we can to win that game at home to Blackburn, to make sure we're in the hat and that we've got another cup game to play where we can give some of these kind of fringe players, let's call them, more game time, keep them happy, keep them playing, keep them sharp. So, I think actually, whereas last season we might have been saying, Jesus, we could maybe do with less games, we're going to suffer from burnout. Whereas this season, I feel like we kind of need those games, like you were saying, Luke, just to make sure everyone's kind of getting a run out and everybody's kind of kept happy, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare our squad from last season to this season, it's chalk and cheese, the players we can bring off our bench. And I think the Conference League has been important for giving some of the fringe players who can still do a job on their day in the Premier League a chance. I do hope that in the domestic leagues, we see some more of our youngsters getting some game time because, last season our squad was very thin. So we saw a lot of our youngsters in the Conference League. Now we've brought in a lot of players. The squad's a bit thicker. Our youngsters aren't really getting much game time in Conference League. So I'd love for them to get the opportunity to play in an FA Cup game, Carabao Cup game. But yeah, I think the Conference League has been good, number one, for confidence, and two, for just giving the squad a run out, which is important for competition for places, squad morale. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, and the other thing actually I just want to touch on quickly with both of you is the question of Connor Coventry. I think we thought maybe we would have seen a little bit more of him than we have in the Conference League, but obviously he hasn't shown up there. Now, he might be played in the final two group games. Maybe we'll see him against Blackburn. That remains to be seen. But things are really up in the air for Coventry, and it always felt like this was going to be the season that would make or break his future at West Ham. And at the moment, Luke, it's not looking too clever for him.
Yeah, well, I think we all, at the back of our minds, were worried that would be the case. It's funny, I think when the defender we had that went to Sunderland, I think in the end, that I can't remember what his name is now, but people thought he might have a bit of a...
Is it a Lesse, I think?
It might be a Lesse, yeah, it might be a guy. Everyone, including, I think, Anton, had high hopes for him to get a chance this year. And, he was kind of looked at as being someone who could come in and be a good player for West Ham for the future. And then he got let go, and then Sunderland picked him up, and or Sunderland bought him, whatever. And to me, as much as I really, really, really want these players to succeed at West Ham, I want the academy to thrive. I want it to be almost a conveyor belt of young players to come in, rather than us having to buy £60 million players and bring them to be a success. You do have to be good enough. That is a fundamental. And as much as Connor Coventry might be from the academy, it might have been at West Ham for years, it'll be like Grady D and Ghana. Sometimes, as much as you want them to be good, they're not good. I'm not writing them off. I'm not saying, but I'm trying to explain that if we are going to go and play a sort of a second string, in the last two games or whatever, cheers, Peter, then hopefully he does get his chance. Hopefully he does. And hopefully he does a Flynn Downs and he's man the match, and he gets his chance to prove himself. The ironic, funny thing is that, unfortunately, sadly for him, is that Flynn Downs can't even get over Soucek. He's got no chance of getting in at that midfield at the moment. So if he was going to play, he might have to try and learn a new position, because there's no chance he's going to be getting in the midfield, even if Flynn Downs can't get in. Now, he might come in one of these games and be even better than Flynn Downs, because that's the chance he's been given. He might come in the last two games of the Conference League and be fantastic. The only trouble is the fact that Connor Coventry is one of those players. This is the trajectory that West Ham have gone now, where I think even 5, 6, 7 years ago, when West Ham, if you like, were sort of relegation battle team, right? A player like Connor Coventry at this point in his career might have been able to come and do a job for West Ham, right? The trouble was with the academy is that this is the hope I've got for the academy, is the fact that West Ham are buying these players, spent 108 million this summer. We're going in strictly to be in the top 6. Now, are we training our academy players to be that good? Are we training up? Are we getting the academy players in that are not just going to be West Ham, Mark Nobles, who play for us for years and years and years, but never really achieve anything? Mark Nobles, I think last season was the first time he played in Europe proper for us in his whole career. He's played, God knows how many years for us. So I would like to see him get a chance in the Conference League. I haven't seen much of him as a player, even on loan for the clubs he's played for. I heard that last season, I think he had half a season with a lower league club. It didn't do very well, and then went to NK Dons, I believe, and had a brilliant second half on loan, and they really liked him. But again, that's in the Football League. That's not in the Premier League. And I hope he gets his chance, and I hope he proves himself to Moyes, and he becomes a really good player. But you do have to be good enough. And I think, quite honestly, if Flynn Downs hadn't been this good, he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes at the club. He'd have been loaned out and he'd been sold by the summer. And in a way, as harsh as I actually can't believe I'm saying this, because I'm one of these people that is sentimental, and I want to see my loyal player. I want to see West Ham rooted players from the academy do well, and I'm more than willing to give them a few chances if they fail, just to try and see them succeed. But I'm also quite glad that West Ham are going on a trajectory that means that if you play for us, you've got to be good. If you play for us, you've got to be better than good. You've got to be European standards to get in this West Ham team now. And I think a few players are not up to that standard, and they've been in the first team for a few years. So hopefully he gets his. That's a long-winded way of me saying hopefully he gets his chance, and hopefully he's good. So fingers crossed for him. I just hope it works out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him and Downs together in midfield in the final 2 conference games. I don't see why that couldn't happen. Let's just put the kid in for a couple of games. Let's just see what we've got here. He's had a very limited opportunity to prove himself, to be fair. Now, obviously, look, we don't see him on the training ground. Moyes does every day. But yes, it seems it's going to be tough for him, Rich, really, to get even enough opportunities to show what he's really about. And you fear for him kind of beyond this season.
Yeah, I do really worry for him. My heart breaks for him, actually, because he's been around the place for such a long time. He's been loaned out to so many clubs. Just doesn't seem to have enough in his tank to crack it in the midfield starting or getting game time for West Ham. And I don't see a future for him at the club, unfortunately. I think he's been there for so long. If Moyes doesn't trust him or believe in him enough to play him by now, what chance does he have? So yeah, I do worry for him, and whatever happens, I just hope it's the best case scenario for him for his career moving forward, because he's playing international football. He could potentially go on to have a great Premier League career if he gets the right move, or if he somehow gets into our team. So yeah, whatever happens, I just wish him all the best, and I hope he can get his career on track.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, Luke, as well there, that to get into this West Ham side for a young player graduating from the academy, I think you have to be an exceptional talent, really. And whether or not Coventry falls into that category, I think, is doubtful at this point. But I think there's also another element in that managers don't get the time that they used to get.
No.
Back in the day, I think managers had a bigger luxury to put youngsters in from their academies. Obviously, this is not just West Ham. This is all clubs now. A manager at any Premier League club now, it's more difficult for them to put a youngster in and to keep putting him in, even if the initial performances aren't quite there, even through the mistakes they're making, to keep putting them in, because it's your job. At the end of the day, you don't get so much time. I mean, we had obviously a not very good start to the season this season. I mean, Moyes finished 6th and 7th with us, got us into Europe 2 years running, and then our opening handful only of games where it's not gone for us, and we're down in the relegation zone, and already he's feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
Despite what he had done at the club, he was already really feeling the pressure, Moyes, after a handful of games at the start of the season. So that goes to show that it's just more difficult for managers to give young players the time and allow them their mistakes, because those mistakes, if they cost you points, as they're learning and growing as players, could cost you your job in the space of a few games. And so it's more difficult for managers now. And that's why, I think certainly at West Ham at the moment, for any youngster to break through will have to be quite exceptional. I mean, look what Declan Rice has done. You can see now why he was able to force his way into the team, because he was exceptionally good for his age. And I think it's going to take another player like that to come through. I mean, even Ben Johnson, who I think is a very good player, still limited in his kind of limited in his appearances. He's usually brought in just to put out fires. If we're when we didn't have like cover at left back, he might be brought in just to cover Cresswell. Same at right back. The last couple of seasons, if Soufal was out, he would be just chucked in there to cover Soufal. He's even had to cover at centre back, in a crisis, in a three, in a back three, and so Johnson is kind of put in there when Moyes really needs him. Or maybe like the Conference League last night where he says, yeah, we'll give you a game, son. But even Ben Johnson, who's a very good young player, has not been able to nail down a week in, week out place on the team in the Premier League. So I think you do have to be exceptional. Obviously now as well, we're all wondering what the hell's going on with Harrison Ashby, who it appears to us, from what we can tell, is an exceptional talent. And has a really bright future in the game. But so far, even Harrison, now I know he's been out and he's only just kind of coming back now. So we'll see what happens with him. But I really hope Harrison will be the next player that actually does force his way into the team. But obviously we've got Kehrer playing quite well at right back now as well. Plus Johnson's back fit. So Fell, looks like he might be recovering some form. So is Harrison Ashby, as good as he looks, even going to be able to get in this West Ham team? So, yeah, it's very difficult for youngsters, and you just wonder where the next kind of great youngster is coming from. I'm not steeped in the academy. I couldn't speak really intelligently about each player in the academy or what the prospects are. I'm generally skeptical about players I hear talk about in the academy that look great. I've heard this talk with a number of academy players over the last few years. None of them have ever really impacted the first team or been good enough to even have a regular spot on the bench. So it's difficult for youngsters now, I think, generally, to break into a Premier League team. I think a lot of them are going to have to drop down one or two divisions at least, and then try to improve themselves to the point where they can, either be promoted with a team or get good enough where a Premier League team kind of buys them already as a kind of almost finished package nearly.
Yeah.
So, it's a pity because we do love our academy and we love to see these young players coming through. But it's very tough for them at the moment, really, unless they're really exceptional players. But listen, I'm going to leave it there. We've been going nearly an hour and a half and it's getting late on a Friday night. And I've got something I got to go do. So, listen, Luke, I really appreciate you coming on again.
No worries.
I've loved having you on, hearing your views. We always have a very interesting conversation and some differences of opinion, and which is good.
Yeah, I hope you haven't bored anyone to see us tonight or anything like that. Or
no, I think we've held our viewer count steady all night, so I think you've done well. Yeah, you're all right.
For a Friday night to have 200 people watching steady conversation.
Yeah, to have over 200 people steadily watching on a Friday night who'd probably rather be in the pub. Yeah, it's not too shoddy. But also, Rich, I think Rich dropped off obviously there a few minutes ago. I want to thank Rich for coming on as well.
Yeah, cheers, Rich.
Always great to hear his views, and we'll definitely have Rich on again soon. And also, of course, thanks to everybody in the chat. I really appreciate you coming on and watching live late on a Friday night. It really helps that I know I'm not talking to myself.
Didn't really get through the comments tonight, but yeah, there was a few good comments in there, like they all are, obviously, always, all the time. But yeah, didn't get through all of them. But what they were. Cheers for commenting and keeping the chat alive, basically.
Yeah, and as ever, I'll be back, and maybe even Luke. Who knows? I haven't asked him nicely yet, but if I asked him nicely, he might join us next week as well if he's not busy. And yeah, hopefully you'll all join us as well and watch live. And obviously, if you're watching this back, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear your views, and I will absolutely read through them and reply to the comments in the comment section. So other than that, we'll see you next Friday, and fingers crossed we'll be talking about another 3 points against Southampton. But until then, come on, you Irons.